talk anymore to Grady Rostberg. Just going to talk on football. And when you get started with Grady on football, we got all afternoon.
I brought with me a copy of the Hutch football records. And I'll read some of these later on. And one of the guys in here, one of the football coaches now is named Tim Thody, and he's our historian. And he told me the other day that the first football game that Hutchinson ever played was in 1894. Now, Bill wasn't on that team, but he was on some pretty good teams back in the 50s. But anyway, thanks, Bill, for inviting me here. When you look at our football program and our team this year, you know, we started out the year thinking we were going to be a pretty good team. And we finally got Glencoe Silver Lake back on our schedule, because that's a great rivalry, and I hope that continues. But some of the schools in the league, you know, they said Hutch is too big, they're too good, and we don't want to play them anymore. So for the last 8 years, they've put us with teams in a district up north. Now, some of you may not know how big that district is. It runs from Moorhead, Brainerd, Bemidji, Alexandria, down through St. Cloud, and that's teams that we could play. Now, we never had to play Moorhead, Brainerd, or Bemidji, but we played, you know, Alexandria, Monticello, and those all 5A schools. And in the 8 years we've been in that district, we've played 8 5A schools, and we've won 7 of them. We lost to Sauk Rapids Rice a few years ago. They scored on the last play of the game to beat us. So we've been able to hold our own with those schools. So we play all those schools up north, and I think we have the toughest 4A schedule in the state. You know, we play Becker and Corey and Wilmer and Delano. Then when the season's over, we go back south, and we play with New Ulm and St. Peter and Marshall and those schools, and we're kind of thinking that we should be playing the teams that are in that section, but we don't. In fact, one year, about 3 years ago, we had a kid that Andy nominated for the All-Star game, and of course we're in the South, but we play all these teams in the North. So when it came time to talk to the coaches down south, they said, well, I don't know about him. We never played that. So he didn't make the All-Star team because nobody knew about him. So it's kind of a mixed up, you know, deal. A little bit about my background. When I graduated, I wanted to be a basketball coach. And I was for 1 year, and I thought, boy, this is crazy. You know, we got beat by 1 point in the district tournament, and the team we played made 25 out of 26 free throws, beat us by 1. They went to the state tournament. I thought, I'm not so sure this is what I want to do. But anyway, I came back to Brownton. I was there 6 years. And speaking of Brownton, we played Cosmos 1 year, and Rich Martin ran a punt back against us and beat us. So Rich, I don't know. But you're going to see Rich's grandson, who is going to be the same kind of player. Not very big, but quick as lightning, and Eli is going to, Kroak is going to have a great year next year, along with some of the other kids we got coming back. I think the things that have happened in football that I think of, you know, I came here in 1969, and it's the safety factor. The equipment is better. The rules are better. You know, you can't block below the waist anymore, and some of those rules are good for the safety of the kids. Back in the old days, if you got your bell rung, Bill, you probably remember that, just get back in there, you know. you know, how many fingers? You know, say 2, and okay, get back in there, you're going to be all right. Well, now that's not the way it is. We have wonderful team doctors. Dr. Stuckey and Dr. Staples are on the sidelines. We have a trainer that comes right out from the hospital. And so if any kid is injured, the coaches really don't have anything to say about it. It's the medical personnel that do so. The game, even though it's still, you can still get injured playing football, like you can get injured falling off a bike too. But I think it's the safety factor for the kids is just much better than it was in the past. We've always had a few rules in football, not many, but some of them, and Andy has the same rules: be early, be responsible, be a gentleman. And those things kind of cover everything that goes on. You know, in our program, the seniors take care of the freshmen. So there's no harassment, nothing like that. In fact, I can give you an example. We were playing a team this year. We played a number of games in the rain. We played this team, and it was raining pretty good, and they had the sideline tapes out, you know, to keep the players dry, and didn't have enough. But our quarterback, Logan Butler, saw a 9th grade boy standing on the sidelines in the rain, and he took his cape off and went over and put it on that night. So the seniors take care of the younger kids. They don't harass them. Nothing like that is allowed. In fact, one year they had a kid, a 9th grader, that would ride his bike to school, and his bike got run over. And the seniors got together and raised enough money, and they bought that kid a new bike, which is, I think it says something about, you know, what goes on in the program. I was out of practice one day, and I don't go out there every day, and I heard Logan Butler say, "Coach, it's time for a love you." And so Andy said, "Okay, time for a love you." So everybody turned around and grabbed the kid next to them, gave them a hug, and said, "I love you." And I asked Andy, I said, "Why do you do that?" Well, he said it's for team camaraderie, no doubt. But he said some of these kids maybe have never been told by anybody. Some of these kids may have never gotten a hug. And he said it was so interesting when we started that program, you know, here a guy hugging a guy, and you know, they were a little squeamish about it. Now, man, they grab them and bear hug them, and if somebody's standing next to the coach, and they grab them and bear hug them. Yeah, you know, I thought, I wish I had thought of that. I didn't think of that, but to me that was a pretty good deal. Now, as the season started, we played GSL first game, won fairly rapidly, or easily. We knew that we were going to be pretty good. Then we went down to Delano and played them and won that game pretty easily. But then the third game of the year was against Totino Grace, and they just dropped down from 6A to 4A. And in 2016, they won the 6A state championship. I think they beat Eden Prairie in the finals that year. But they decided that they were, I don't know, the last couple of years they haven't done so well, so they decided to drop down to 4A, which is where their enrollment is. So we were kind of concerned about them, but we did manage to beat them 20-3, but we did have some injuries in that game. We had Andrew Lipke, one of our good tight end middle linebacker. He broke his hand in the first quarter. Played the whole game, made 17 tackles. And after the game, he had to go to surgery, and they put some pins in his hand, you know. And so we were missing him for a few days, and we also missed a tackle So we're playing Rocori at home. They're good. And first play, our quarterback gets hit a little late and gets his head back and got a concussion, a slight concussion anyway. So what do? You lose your quarterback in the first play. The third play of the game, we lost our fullback for Haskell. So here we sit that we're, plus the two guys we had lost in the Tlatina game, and of course that was the game that Rocori shut us out, 11-0. And then the next week we went over and played Becker, the #1 team in the state, without all these guys, and they beat us 21-20. So we knew we had we found a kid by the name of Nathan Thody, who was a receiver, but we had lost some people, and so we moved Charlie Renner to a receiving spot, and Nathan ran as a tailback, and we realized he's pretty good. But anyway, so we lost those two games during the regular season, then we came back and went on a run, and of course, you know how that worked out. We got into the playoffs, and we had a tough game with Marshall. We did beat them in the finals of the section. And then we knew we were going to have to play Totino Grace again, because the section there and our JV team could have won that section. I mean, there were just no good teams. So you knew it was going to be Totino Grace. And we did play them, but we really handled them pretty well down at Lakeville South. We beat them 47-12. And then next week, of course, in the semifinals, we played North Branch. They had won 10 games in a row, and we put 56 points on them. So now comes Rocori in the finals, and we knew how good they were. They had some studs, I'll tell you. And it was one of those hard-hitting sock games, and we ended up coming out on the top, 14-6. So that's a little resume of our season. What does it look like for next year? We need to find some linemen. We only had 17 seniors on this team, but there were 17 pretty good ball players, and we're going to really miss them. We had kids that made all conference. Anton Cadillac, to me, he's the best lineman in the state of Minnesota. He's 6'2", 310 pounds. He ran a 4.82 40-yard dash for the Gophers. And when you talk to the college coaches, you know what they tell me? He's too short. So I tell them, well, you wouldn't have recruited John Randall, the former Viking defensive tackle who was 6 feet tall. Is now in the NFL Hall of Fame. I said, you wouldn't have recruited Aaron Donald, the best defensive tackle in the NFL now. He's 6'1", 280. Now they go by measurements. There's a kid we played this year that's got a full ride at a Division I school. He's 6'6". We put Anton Cadillac over against him a few times, and Cadillac destroyed him. But they look at him as 6'2", and they think that's I think he's got a chance to play next year beyond college. I really think so. He's probably the most talented lineman that I think. We've had linemen play in the NFL. Mitch Erickson and yeah, and Stan Sissoma played, in the NFL, and so we've had Leiden Murtha. We've had, those guys play there. This guy, if you watch film of him, he just throws guys. He's amazing. But he's going to get a full ride at I think he's going to go to Winona State and play there because it's not going to cost him. And Andy talked to him one day and he says, Anton, you could play for Iowa. I know. You could play for the Gophers. I know. But he says, I'm not going to pay them for me to play. They're going to pay me. So he's, I think, going to go to Winona State. Logan Butler, our quarterback, he's got a lot of ability. He throws probably as well or better than anybody we've ever had. He's 6'5". Fun to go watch him play basketball. You see his brother, they score 50, 60 points every game between them. It's kind of fun to watch him. But he'll go someplace. He's got a pretty good offer from Concordia of St. Paul. Charlie Renner, the Bison just called, and the defensive coordinator talked to Andy, and he said, Charlie's on our list. He said, it all depends on if we lose a safety to the portal. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And Charlie's on our list. And he's got a lot of teams interested in him too, in the NSIC, Mankato State, Augustana, Sioux Falls, you know, those teams. So, and we've got a number of kids at the MIAC, St. John's, and Gustavus are really interested. I think that will be, you know, pretty good players. Things are changing in football with this transfer portal and everything that's going on now. And what's happened is that colleges now, if they need somebody, instead of recruiting a high school player and bringing him along for a couple of years, they go and get somebody from another team. And the coach of Nebraska said to get a good quarterback now, it'll cost you between $1 million and $2 million. This is college football. The Ohio State quarterback started every game for Ohio State. Where's he going next year? Syracuse. The Kansas State quarterback, really good. Left Kansas State, got 1 year of eligibility left. Where's he going? Ohio State. It's all about the money. And now players can earn money through this NIL program. You know, it's their likeness. They can sell their pictures and they can do ads. I don't know if you've ever watched Caitlin Clark from Iowa play women's basketball? Oh, she's terrific. I saw her doing a State Farm ad the other day. So, Cole Kramer had graduated quarterback from Eden Prairie, played for the Gophers, never started a game. 2 of the Gophers quarterbacks left. BJ Fleck calls Cole down in Arizona. He's got a job. He's going to get married. He said, you got to come back and play in the bowl game. We don't have any quarterbacks. 2 of them left. Now, I heard that he got 30 grand for coming back and playing in that game. Now, Cole Kramer says that's wrong. He might have got 50. Or he might have got 20. But you know he got to bring him back to play, and he played in that game and did okay. And the Gophers won the game. I think the outlook for Gopher football, and we're all Gopher football fans. Some people are Iowa fans, of course. I don't think it looks good because they have a Dinkytown NIL program where people, I know boosters give money to them, and then PJ Fleck takes the money, and if he needs a quarterback, so contact somebody. They're getting a New Hampshire quarterback next year. I don't know what he's getting. But I don't think there's enough money in the cities when you think they've got the Vikings, they've got the Timberwolves, they've got the Wild, they've got the Twins. Most of the money goes into those professional teams. And I don't think there's enough money around for them to have money like Alabama or Nebraska. You know, the Nebraska coach, he said between $1 and $2 million to get a good quarterback. So they don't come out and recruit high school kids as heavily as they used to. If they have a need, they go to rob some other team. There was a tight end last year that played for South Dakota State. Good. He was drafted high in the second round. He was offered $800,000 to go play for some big Oklahoma or someplace like that. And he turned it down. He said, I'm a jackrabbit. I don't know if that was real smart. Somebody's offered you $800,000 to go. But that's where college football is now, and it affects the high school program because they wait. They don't come out. They see who they can get from other teams. I think the Gophers lost 22 players to the portal. I think North Dakota State lost 18. I'd hate to coach at that level now because you never know. You never know what you're going to have because some guy goes. And so it's a problem I think that's got to be fixed. I always felt the players should get something, and of course the scholarship is something they get and a little other money maybe on the side. But now the sky's the limit. They can make as much money. But I often wondered how some defensive tackle or offensive guard feels when the quarterback's getting $2 million and he's getting nothing. So then how do you know how much they're getting? You don't really know. But years ago when I was still coaching, I was keeping track of the scholarship money that kids in Hutch had gotten through playing football. And I was up well over $2 million at that time. Now it's even bigger because it costs a lot more to go to school than it did then. But it's what we live in. It's the nature of the game, and I don't like it, but it's the way it is. So, that's a little rundown of some of the stuff that we've done. I'd like to open it up to questions. If anybody's got questions, maybe I can answer some questions.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. My husband was going through cancer therapy, and we were at the Mayo Clinic waiting to get into an appointment. And this guy was sitting across from him, and Tim had on his Rush Tiger t-shirt. And he goes, hey, Rush Tigers, you got some pretty famous coaches over there, don't you? And Tim said, yeah, we do. He goes, what are their names? And this guy said, no, it's the Rostbergs, right? He goes, yeah, it is. But, and I think he was from, like, Texas. But I mean, through the grapevine, I heard about it.
We stopped in Kansas one time. We were going down south. This was a number of years ago. We went into this little restaurant, and I think Sharon had a Hutch thing on, The guy sitting there said, "Oh, Hutch, you got good football there." Sitting in the middle of Kansas.
This is just a comment. I don't know how many watched the football game last night, but there's a young lady from Hutchinson by the name of Natasha Lemke, and she's deaf. And she was featured on a commercial on there for AT&T. They developed a helmet for the hard of hearing and deaf. She plays for the Austin Outlaws, which is a professional women's football team in Austin, Texas. That team has been around for 21 years. She plays safety. And she's from Hutchinson. We got acquainted with her because she was in our daughter's wedding. And our daughter was a lifeguard here, and that's how she got acquainted with her. She was swimming with her. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a little lens that comes down. They can,
And the coach.
Yeah.
see the
I saw
play.
that on TV. I got a story. My son, Andy, he started a family late in life. He didn't get married till he was, I didn't think he'd ever get married. But he started, when he was about 40. Now he's got a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old. But the 14-year-old my grandson was playing hockey in Owatonna last year. And we were down in Arizona and we streamed, don't ask me how my daughter did that, but we watched the hockey game on the big screen. And my grandson doesn't score that many goals, but in that game he had 2 goals. And Andy was standing behind the goal. Now you got to realize, Andy started late in life. So there was a guy standing behind the goal when Grady got his 2nd goal, and they announced it. And the guy said, his grandpa was a heck of a quarterback back in the 80s. I said, what did you say, Andy? I said, I never said anything. I shut my mouth. And he didn't know who Andy was standing there, you know, but I thought that was kind of a... Now, I'm going to read some of the... I bet some of these people you'll remember, and some of them you won't have any idea. Who do you think is the all-time leading rusher in Hutchinson football history? Chris Davis. Chris Davis rushed for 4,001 yards. And he played for me the last year I coached in '98 when we beat Owatonna in the state championship game at the Old Dome. Now, we got other guys that are up there. Nathan Swift, 3,700 yards. Levi Tietzel, 36. Tom Coles, 3,500. So we've got a lot of guys that have rushed for over 3,000 yards. But I would bet if you made that a question, nobody would get that Chris Davis was an all-time leading rusher. Who's the all-time leading rusher in one game? Nathan Swift. He rushed for 352 yards against Northfield. Second place was Levi Tietzel, 319 yards against Fairfield. So this year our leading rusher was Nathan Toti, and his biggest game was 244 yards. Here's another one you might not get. Season touchdowns, the most touchdowns in one season. Played last year. A.J. Ladwig had 39 touchdowns. 39. Robbie Grimsley at 33. Russell Corrigan at 31. Charlie Renner this year had 21 touchdowns. And Carter Verhassel at 19. So we had a pretty good tandem there. One scored 21 touchdowns, one scored 19.
Who has extra points?
Gary Potter. In fact, I went to his mother's funeral the other day and we talked about it. He said, how come you don't have any straight-on kickers anymore? Because Gary was a straight-on kicker. And he had made 41 extra points in a row. Of course, another good kicker we had was Brian Capen. In fact, Brian played, I just nominated him for the Hutch Wall of Fame. He played in the All-Star football game at Metropolitan Stadium, scored a touchdown. And he was All-State in the St. Paul Pioneer Press and the Minneapolis Tribune. So, and he was a heck of a kicker. They kick it, and they were straight-on kickers. They could kick it in the end zone. I said, Gary, nobody kicks straight on anymore. And you know, you told the story, and when he came out first, and he was practicing kicking, and I was out there, and I said, you kept kicking him under the bar. I said, you got to kick him over the bar. Oh! He was used to playing soccer, and he was kicking it underneath the crossbar. Finally, he figured that out, and he started kicking him over the bar. He was pretty good. Season receiving yards. He's on the coaching staff right now. Tim Thode. In 1998, he had 730 yards receiving. Receiving touchdowns. This one you won't get. His dad played for me at Brown. He still lives in town. Brian Brinkfire. 12 touchdown receptions in 1991. This quarterback is Corey Sauter, which helped. Charlie Renner is in second place. He had nine receptions for touchdowns this year. Charlie's the only guy that had 9 touchdown receptions and scored 10 running touchdowns. Nobody's ever done that. Even Nathan Swift didn't do that. But that's in 1 year. That was his 19 touchdowns. He had 10 rushing, 9 receiving. Career passing touchdowns. Here's another one you won't get. He's a hockey player. Real good. Played hockey at Notre Dame. Ryan Dolder threw 34 touchdown passes from 1992 to 1994. Marcus Hahn had 29 and Andy Rostberg at 28. Those are the top 3. Season touchdown passes. Corey Sauter had 19. And Scott Kirchhoff had 19 in 1998. Logan Butler had 11 this year, and I think he 11 last year. I think he ended up with 22 touchdowns for his career. Interception records, Brian Brinkmeyer has got his name in here again, 15. Gene Ulrich had 15 also. Nathan Thode now has got 1 year left. He's got 9 interceptions. He had 7 interceptions this year, like safety. So he's right up there. He could break the all-time record for interceptions. So that's some of the records that we've got. You know, we quit. The last year we kept tackles. Brian Lenz led us in tackles. I remember that number. He had 127 tackles. And his son played in 2013 and led us in tackles. Now Brian was about 230. His son was about 170. But both really outstanding players. Any other questions?
What about this young quarterback that's coming up? Is that going to be...
He's kind of skinny.
You better feed him better.
When he has late hockey practice, he stays overnight at our place, and I mean, he can eat. But he doesn't seem to. He was kind of chunky when he was little, but now he's stretched up. I don't know. He's got a good arm, understands the game, but he's still like a young colt. He's not real coordinated. We're hoping it's a little bit better, but
He's only in
he's got a
8th grade,
chance.
right?
Pardon?
He's only in 8th grade?
Yes, he's in 8th grade. But he's sprouted up so much, he's 6 feet tall now. So he's kind of lost any kind of...
He's done a lot of practice over the years on that field, back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Halftime.
Good practices. He plays hockey and he plays baseball. That's another thing. You know, we have a good situation here in Hutchinson because if you look at our basketball team, it's pretty good, and they're 11-2. 4 of the starters are all football players. You look at all of our receivers, Nathan Thode, Charlie Renner, and Manny Pierce, all hockey players. And we really, and the coaches are really good about this thing. You know, and you get in some schools and the basketball coach doesn't want their basketball players to play football, but that's not the way it is here. The coaches get along, they encourage their players to play more than one sport. You know, Bud Grant always said, I want kids that have played more than one sport. He really thinks it's important for the development of the athlete be under different coaches, different muscle groups that are used in sports. You know, he thought a well-rounded three-sport athlete was something that, you know, you should really desire to have. And I think that's true. And we had a kid this year by the name of Gunnar Bick. And he's got a lacrosse scholarship to a school in North Carolina. And his mother didn't want him to play football. And he's a senior this year. And he wanted to play football. His mother didn't want him to play. He finally said, I'm playing football. And he came out about 2 weeks late. So he couldn't play in the first couple of games because he hadn't practiced. He ended up being a starting defensive end, and he was really good. He really made our defense. Now, football is a little different. You know, if you're going to be a basketball player or a hockey player, there's so much skill involved. You've got to really work at it and practice it. Here's a kid that came out and was just a great athlete, strong, big legs, big hips, quick. 3 weeks of practice. It was really a good football. We had another kid come out in the middle of the year last year. Ethan Lenz, 6'2" or 3", 195 pounds. He came out there and he could run. And was one of our great defensive players this year. He knocked more balls down and just was terrific. So football lends itself to that kind of thing. You don't have to be a specialist and work on your skill for 12 years to be, you know, good. You can be, if you're athletic. And the second thing it takes is some courage. You know, it's hard to play football without some courage. Now, some people have more courage than others. And, you know, some of them are, you know, Glenn was one of those guys that he had a lot of courage. In fact, to the point that you think, yeah, you know, Glenn, you shouldn't hit people that hard. It's hard on you. But some guys that maybe they play safety don't have quite so much courage, but they're ball hawks. They can grab a guy and tackle him, you know. So, you know, there's a place for a lot of different types of individuals, I think, in football. And I think football, I love all sports. I really do. I don't think there's more of a team sport than football. Football, can you imagine being an offensive tackle? You never get to touch the ball. You block for people and the backs get all the credit. The quarterback and the running backs, they're the ones that get lit up. Now, of course, Anton, he got some accolades too, you know, because he was so darn good. But he's got a little brother coming up that's in 8th grade. I'm hoping that maybe he'll develop too. Football is the ultimate team sport. It's just the ultimate team sport. For people come together, 11 people come together, and everybody's got a job to do. Otherwise, you're not successful. That's why I think football it's a great lead up into your career, whatever you're going to do. You know, teamwork. You get it with a group, you got a team, and you work on a project. Teamwork to do it. And, you know, I think football gives people that. You know, they strive for some goal without even getting a lot of the credit. And to me, there's really no other sport like that. You know, every other sport you get to basketball. Can you imagine if you told a kid in basketball, okay, you go out and play, but you can't touch the ball? You know, it wouldn't be that much fun. So these offensive linemen, and defensive linemen.
Tell me about Anton and his play back.
Well, when we had those guys hurt, Andy had a package set for Anton at 310 pounds to play fullback. And he did play, you know, some in that game. And I remember I looked at film of one game, he came there, a guy tried to tackle him low, and he just hopped right over the top of him and made 11 yards. So he was, yeah, he's quite a player. He's quite a player. We're going to miss. We had some good linemen. That's where we need. Now we're not Totino Grace, so we can't go out and recruit linemen. You know, we got what we got. So there's a lot of that stuff going on too with the private schools. And, you know, the Holy Family got a new coach, and they got another basketball team. They got another 6'9" guy that came in, and I don't know how they get eligible, but I found out the rules in a private school. If the parent moves, now you realize private schools have no school district. So the rule is, if the parent moves, they're eligible. So this good guard from Edina, really good. He's a senior this year, but last year as a junior. He came to Holy Family. Well, his parents moved. Now they might have moved next door. It just says the parent has to move. Now, in the public schools, you have to move into the district. We had this big kid from Minnetonka. His dad and mom have a place on Lake Marion. And he left the cities and he's teaching in New Ulm. Well, their cabin was right on the line, but it was not in Hutchinson's district. It was south of that. So he came 6'5", 230, and he was not eligible to play varsity football in college. He did play JV, got hurt his hand, you know, and stuff like that. But so his folks moved, but they didn't move into our district. They moved 10 feet from our district, and he was ineligible.
Plus one right by.
Huh?
Plus one right by.
Yeah. So the rules are kind of, that's why you see kids transferring and they're eligible right away. And you say, how in the world can he be eligible? Because parents have to move into the district in order to be eligible. But not if you have a private school, they have to move, period. So I don't know how many of them do that, but I know a lot of kids are, Holy Families getting kids coming in, they're eligible right away, so I don't know how that works. Well, and Rich, you've talked about Jeff, you know, when he's coaching hockey, they build all these programs, get these kids going, then all of a sudden they transfer to Totino Grace. You know?
Right, but like in Andover, they won't allow any open enrollment or anything. When you live in a school district, you go to Andover, you can move out, but nobody can move in.
Really?
Yep. Because they got so many kids, it's just different.
Yeah, it is. Well, anything else? Well, it's always nice to come and talk about football. Bill, I thank you for. I was going to tell a story about Bill. You know, I grew up on a farm, and we burned wood. And I'm sure you burned wood when you were a kid. And a friend of mine was telling me he didn't know his name, what his name was. He thought his name was Get Wood because his dad kept saying Get Wood, Get Wood. He thought his name was Get Wood until he was about 14 years. That could apply to us too, Bill.
Yep. Grady and everywhere for coming down. This is what makes an organization grow and feel good about each other.